So, Tim, one of the biggest experiences that Garrison had out here was bringing the herd in on a day-long drive where they started at 4 in the morning. The air was so dry, he got a bloody nose. Sent me a picture of it.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you're new here, thanks for stopping by. And if you've been following our Sister Wives coverage, you know we've been on quite the emotional journey this season. Today, we're diving into Season 19, Episode 25. And while this episode includes a much-needed family trip, the truth is, nothing about it feels lighthearted. Not after everything the Browns have been through. This trip was meant to be a reset, a chance to breathe, reconnect, and maybe even find a little peace after weeks of heartbreak. But from the very beginning, it's clear the emotional weight is still there, heavy and undeniable. Garrison's passing changed everything, and even as the family boards planes, packs bags, and heads out for what should be a bonding experience, that sorrow never leaves them. Janelle, especially, is quiet. You can feel her pain in every scene. She goes on this trip not because she wants to, but because she knows her other children still need her. She's trying to be present, trying to keep some kind of structure intact, but you can see the grief behind her smile. She mentions how strange it feels to be doing something normal when nothing about life feels normal anymore. Her strength is incredible, but her heartbreak is just beneath the surface. Christine steps up in her usual way, upbeat, warm, trying to keep the mood from dipping too low. She brings snacks, cracks jokes, and tries to be the glue that holds the mood together. But even she admits in a quiet moment that this trip isn't about fun, it's about survival, about trying to keep going, one moment at a time. She talks to Janelle about how silence has become louder since the funeral, and how the smallest things now bring the biggest waves of grief. There's a scene during a family dinner on the trip where it all kind of bubbles up, not through yelling or drama, but through the silence, the pauses in conversation, the way everyone avoids saying Garrison's name because it still feels like too much. It's powerful, painful, and very real. Robyn and Kody are there too, and their presence is complicated. Kody tries to engage, tries to show up emotionally, but his strained relationships with some of the kids and the other wives still hang in the air. He makes an effort, but it's awkward. The kids are polite, but distant. And Robyn, who usually keeps a lower emotional profile, even gets teary during one quiet moment, saying she wishes she could take the pain away from everyone, especially from Janelle. There's also a very emotional reflection from Gabriel during the trip. He doesn't say much, but when he does, it's deeply moving. He talks about how he didn't want to come at first, how leaving home felt like he was leaving Garrison behind, but then he admits that being surrounded by family, even with all the tension, helps him feel a little less alone. The most striking part of the episode is that this trip, while set against scenic views and shared meals, never escapes the grief. And honestly, that's what makes it powerful. It's not about pretending everything's okay. It's about facing life in the aftermath. About trying to stay together, even when everything feels broken. This episode doesn't try to tie things up in a neat bow. It doesn't pretend this trip fixed anything. It shows that healing is messy, that you can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. That laughter and pain can exist in the same moment. That a dinner table can be full, but still feel like someone is missing. And that's where we're left as the episode winds down. A family doing their best, still hurting, still fractured, but still trying to be present, trying to show up for each other, trying to find moments of peace in the middle of unimaginable loss. Let's talk about what happened after the initial moments of this trip. Because while the first half of the episode showed us a family simply trying to exist in the same space again, the second half starts peeling back the layers of how deeply fractured their bonds have become, and how grief has both frozen them and, in some ways, pushed them into motion. There's a powerful moment between Janelle and Christine, where they finally let their guard down a bit. Christine opens up about how she's been thinking about Garrison constantly, not just about his passing, but about all the things he was never able to say. She tells Janelle that the silence from Kody in the months leading up to the funeral broke something not just in the kids, but in her too, and Janelle, through tears, admits something heartbreaking, that a part of her is angry that her son's suffering went unnoticed, angry that he felt unheard, angry that she, as his mother, couldn't protect him from the emotional collapse of this family. But then, she says something else. She says that anger is exhausting, that she's tired of holding it in her bones, that this trip, painful as it is giving her one tiny thing she didn't expect: clarity. The understanding that she cannot change the past, but she can change how she shows up moving forward. That's growth. That's grief in motion. Now let's talk about Kody. Because his presence during this trip remains complex. He tries. He really does. He talks to Gabriel and Savannah separately, and those moments are heavy. You can feel how much distance is still there. The conversations are polite, but guarded. Gabriel especially struggles to open up. There's a stiffness in his body language, a kind of protective wall that doesn't come down, not even for a second. Kody expresses that he's trying to make things right, but it's clear the damage is deeper than words. It's about years of mistrust, years of perceived abandonment. Garrison's death has only magnified that, showing how isolation within a family can have irreversible consequences. And Robyn, well, Robyn has a quiet breakdown in this episode. During a group lunch, the tension gets to her. She steps away from the table, and later in a solo confessional, she shares that she feels like an outsider again, that the kids don't trust her intentions, that the family doesn't see her grief as valid, and whether you agree with her or not, it's a raw moment. She says she wishes she could erase every hurt feeling anyone ever had in this family, but she's realizing that no one can do that. No one can undo the ripple effects of years of emotional separation. What's really interesting is that the trip itself becomes symbolic, not just of a family trying to reconnect, but of a family trying to figure out what the future even looks like. Because one thing is clear, things are not going back to how they were. There's no more pretending that this is one big happy plural family. The divisions are real, and yet there's still a pull, a desire, especially from the kids, to find some kind of peace. Later in the episode, there's a quiet moment around a campfire. No music, no dramatic dialogue, just the family sitting together, staring into the flames. You can almost hear the thoughts running through everyone's minds. It's a moment of unity, but not necessarily closeness. It's more like a shared mourning, not just for Garrison, but for the way this family used to be. And that's what makes this episode so impactful. Because it doesn't offer solutions. It doesn't pretend that a trip to a cabin or a hike in the woods is going to fix years of broken trust. Instead, it shows us that healing, real healing, comes in tiny, imperfect steps, in small conversations, in tears shed around a dinner table, in the willingness to show up, even when it hurts like hell. Garrison's funeral is only mentioned briefly in this second half, but its presence is everywhere. The quiet stares, the long pauses in conversation, the moments where someone almost says his name and then stops themselves. You can feel him in every scene. His absence is deafening. It's the thing that unites them in pain, even when they can't unite in love. By the end of the episode, we don't get a big resolution. The family doesn't leave this trip as a suddenly healed, happy unit, but they do leave with something important: honesty. Janelle finally admits that she doesn't know what the future holds for her place in the family. Christine reaffirms that she's already building a new life, and that she hopes at least her kids can heal. Kody says he wants to change, though whether he's truly ready to face the consequences of the past remains unclear. This wasn't a vacation, it was a reckoning, and in its own painful way, it was necessary. As the trip comes to an end, the energy is heavy, not because there was a big blowout or some dramatic confrontation, but because of the silence. That deep, painful silence that follows shared grief, the kind where everyone knows something's broken, but no one knows how to fix it. There's a moment near the end where Janelle is sitting alone, reflecting on everything. She says something that really hit me. She says, "I don't think we'll ever be the same, and maybe we're not supposed to be." And that's the heart of this episode. The truth that no one wants to say out loud, that Garrison's death didn't just break hearts, it broke the illusion. The illusion that this family could ever go back to what it once was. After the trip, the families go their separate ways. Christine returns home with her kids, who are clearly feeling the weight of the trip. They're quiet, reflective. Christine opens up in a confessional and says, "This wasn't closure. It was a reminder that we still have work to do. That healing isn't a destination, it's a process. And some of us are just starting." And then there's Kody. You can tell he's struggling. He says he thought the trip might bring everyone closer, but instead it made the gaps more visible. He talks about how hard it was seeing his kids interact more closely with Christine and Janelle than with him, how distant they still are. And to be honest, it's hard to feel sympathy in that moment, because we've watched this disconnect grow over seasons. But what is new is that Kody finally admits something real. He says, "Maybe I waited too long. Maybe they needed me before I was ready to be there." That line, it's the most honest we've seen him in a while. Savannah and Gabriel share a quiet moment back home. They don't say much, just sit together, looking through photos of Garrison. It's tender, bittersweet. And it reminds us that while the show focuses so much on the adults and their drama, it's the kids who are carrying the deepest scars. There's one scene that absolutely gutted me. Janelle is packing away some of Garrison's belongings, just a few things that were left behind. She picks up a shirt of his, holds it to her face, and just sits there. No tears, just a deep, aching stillness. That moment said more than any words ever could. The way a mother holds on to what little is left of her child, it's devastating. And even as she shares her thoughts with the camera, Janelle says something incredibly strong. She says, "I will never get over this, but I will move with it. I will carry him with me in everything I do, and I hope one day this family can carry each other again, too." Robyn has her own reflection. She talks about feeling like she's walking on eggshells, like no matter what she does, it's never enough. She says she wishes people could see how much she's hurting too, but she also says she understands why they can't. That maybe the damage was done long before this trip. It's a rare moment of self-awareness, and while some fans may still feel skeptical of her role in the family's divisions, it's hard to deny that she too is grieving in her own way. By the time the episode closes, we're left with more questions than answers. What happens next for Kody and his kids? Can Janelle and Christine continue to move forward, knowing how broken things still are? Is reconciliation even possible? Or is this just the beginning of an entirely new chapter, where the family becomes more like separate households with shared history and pain? One thing is certain, this episode wasn't about resolutions. It was about truth. The kind of truth that only emerges in the wake of deep loss. When the distractions fall away, when the roles people play no longer fit, when the grief is too heavy to ignore. And honestly, that's what made this one of the most powerful episodes we've ever seen. Because for the first time in a long time, Sister Wives stopped being about logistics, about schedules and moving trucks and polygamist politics, and became about something very human. A family in mourning, a family reckoning with what it's become, and maybe, just maybe, starting to accept that love sometimes means letting go of what was, letting go of who people used to be, and starting over, even if it hurts.